Go. Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good whatever time of the day you are at today. We're excited to have our good friend John here from Auvik with us. John, I just got to see you last week bust a move in with a little Snoop Doggy Dog action in some, what was it, the Spasmatics? Is that who it was?
Spasmatics, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good thing. Or obviously, for those that are just chiming in, we were all at PAX 8 Beyond. Wow, what a conference, right? 25,000 people. No, 7 million. No, wait, something.
I think, what do I hear? One of the final numbers, I don't know if it's official or not, but like 4,000 people or something like that in that ballpark range.
Wow.
3,000 to 4,000. That's huge. There were so many people there. And how many times did you hear managed intelligence provider while you were out there, Tim?
So I wonder who owns managedintelligenceprovider.com.
Is it you? I heard that it got bought the first day of the conference. Somebody bought it. Apparently it wasn't owned until that night, and somebody bought it online.
I wonder who bought it.
That's the word. That's the word around the industry. But I mean, it was with a good merit, right? Like managed intelligence provider is the future we're looking at, and it'll kind of play into today's topic. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah. So speaking of, well, before we get into that, John, let me just give you an opportunity to pop up, say hello, who, what, where, when, how, and why.
Look at that. I got the full screen. Hi there. My name's John Harden. I'm our director of strategy and partnerships over here at Auvik. Excited to be here to talk with Tim. Some of these partnerships are wide ranging, but the one with compliance risk is exciting. We here at Auvik are a company that's focused on asset discovery across your SaaS endpoints and on your network. But today we'll be talking predominantly around SaaS and shadow IT and all of the reasons that can play into your GRC plan. If you want to reach out to me at any time, holler at me on LinkedIn. That's where we're streaming right now, and ask any questions. But I'm asking them in chat. It makes it way more fun if you have a conversation with us here today.
John, thanks so much for chiming in. And yes, bring those comments in on chat. I suppose I should do my little thing too. So, hey, everybody, Tim Golden, founder, CEO of Compliance Scorecard, where we help your MSP keep that risk in check through our compliance scorecards. We're really excited to have our good friend John here now that we've actually implemented the Auvik API into our platform. We'll show you that in a little bit. But excited to have you all here. As John said, pop in some comments. Try to stump us along the way. We love being stumped. So John, you know, we usually do this like key takeaway at the end, but you threw it out there like, let's do it at the beginning. Like, what is the key takeaway for today?
You can't talk AI unless you know the AI and you're governing the AI in your companies that you're managing.
Wow. Okay.
And now we're going to work all the way there instead of the takeaway at the end. Now we've got you hooked.
Right.
And now you can see how we get there.
Well, I guess I would say from our perspective, you can't govern what you don't know, and still you're held accountable.
Yeah. I'm excited.
All right.
Let's get there.
Let's get there. So yeah, I mean, we've talked a little bit about like, you know, we did some behind the scenes stuff. A lot of prep kind of went into this. I think we might want to just talk about like the visibility challenge of, you know, asset visibility, some of these foundational things that just exist in the space that hopefully we should be doing.
Yeah. So asset challenge is like universal for every business out there. It doesn't matter if you're a managed service provider, an IT or an an MSSP or an MIP now. You know, maybe it's a BSP. We're just going to keep changing the acronyms every day.
TSP.
But it doesn't matter who you are or what business you operate. Asset visibility is kind of crucial. And it's become more crucial over the years, especially as cybersecurity starts to, you know, really have a stronger play in the way that your business works and operates and the ways that you support your companies. But the foundation of it, asset visibility, is just knowing everything that's in your business. It's an inventory and control of your enterprise assets. Channeling my inner Matt Lee here, like it's CIS one. It's CIS Control One. It's the inventory and control of all of your assets. And today we're going to be talking about the visibility and control of like the SaaS assets and the network assets. But the reality is it's beyond that. It's your network infrastructure, it's your endpoints, it's your servers, it's your firmware, it's your IoT devices, it's your printers. It's essentially your entire attack surface. And so what is asset visibility? It's knowing the totality of your enterprise assets in your business so that you can actually understand what you're trying to build a cybersecurity program around, and so you can actually govern your environment more effectively.
I'm going to throw a monkey wrench in there. So I'm going to back up 25 plus years working with a previous company where we were going through a A1 or A11 or whatever the financial audit was that we were going through. Mm-hmm. And the auditor was like, hey, this is great, but we need to know everything that you have. Well, define everything, like everything. We want to know chairs and printers and desks and coffee pots. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not an IT function. But as I dug deeper and as I understood what they were really asking for was things around depreciation, right? So yes, from an attack surface management, of course, we want to know, we can't protect what we don't know, all that fun stuff, CIS1. But from a depreciation, from a total cost of ownership, right? From a everybody's talking about Windows 10 right now and end of life and all of that, right? From not just the total cost of ownership, but what is it going to cost to replace all the technical debt, right? We talk about that as well. So, but you can't do that if you don't know what you have and you don't know where it is and you don't know who's using it, or if they even need to continue to use it, right? All those things. And so I think there might be a way to kind of discover some of that stuff, right, John? Is there a way to discover that stuff?
Everything but the coffee pot, yeah. I don't know.
Well, unless your coffee pot's Wi-Fi.
Yeah, unless the coffee. You know what? The coffee is probably on the Wi-Fi these days. Yeah, of course. I mean, so here at Auvik, we have total asset visibility solution catered predominantly. Total's fair enough, but like, I would say catered around your network infrastructure, your software, your users, your SaaS, and your data, and knowing where all of that is. We're going to be talking today around predominantly our network and SaaS integrations and our discovery of those. But in a long story short, our claim to fame is total asset visibility in under 30 minutes. So deploying your network collector and having all of your network infrastructure, having all of your network architecture, all of your network devices, all your servers, end user devices, your IoTs, all plotted into a single screen from the Auvik network management visibility slide. And then on the Auvik SaaS side, not only having all of your software and all your SaaS solutions out there, but also all those identities and all those accounts accessing the SaaS and the servers or in the systems as well. And so that isn't the totality of the control of CIS1, but it's a pretty dang big swath of it.
Yeah, that feels like a lot. Like, and SaaS is such an important component right now. There was a stat. Like, I have a little phrase that I've been using for a while, which is own the browser, own the internet, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people just live in their browser most of the times, right? I think of like backing up a few years ago when I was managing a biotech company, and they were all Google apps. So it was really easy. I could just buy them all Chromebooks, stuff them in Google Workspace and manage those Chromebooks because they didn't have desktops. They didn't need all that. They needed Gmail and some PowerPoints and whatever. But, the fast forward, the browser is where people live most of the days now. And being able to discover, like Auvik SaaS, where people are going, multiple different credentials, using personal addresses or even company addresses, logging in. And we've made it so easy for the end user to click and sign up, right?
And that's when they click and sign up right in the right way. That's when they don't click and sign up with their personal account, hence the identity and the account side. Mm-hmm. We were talking a bit backstage, right? In 2023, we pulled this stat, and I know the number's higher. And now I've got to request into my engineering team to find it, but it's not going to be by the end of this webinar. But in 23, 63% of the time that of all the hundreds of thousands of users that we monitored for shadow IT management, 63% of the time that people were working, it was in the browser. And, I think, if you take out the Zooms and the Microsoft Teams and the desktop apps for communication software, you're probably going to end up looking a little bit higher. I would almost guarantee you're going to end up closer to that like 80 to 90% realm. And so, as everybody's using software in the browser, it's time to rethink the way that you're supporting, specifically if you're an MSP. Because a lot of MSPs, this is why I left to set out my business originally, SaaS after leaving my MSP, was a lot of MSPs say they're managing software. It's probably in your MSA. It probably is somewhere in there because the RMM vendors told you to do it 5 or 10 years ago to say you manage the totality of software. And that was the case. And then good old Salesforce and all the renovations came along with SaaS. And now you don't manage any of the software. You just happen to know what's installed. And that visibility gap of that 63% of time where employees are spending and getting their jobs done has started to become really apparent with the advent now of AI and the web-based AI technologies. It's even more exacerbated. So kind of dang important to know where people are putting time in the browser these days.
I just had a thought. I mean, how many times has technology come full circle? Right? I don't know how long you've been around or in the space or how old you are. I don't want to get into that. But, when I started, there was a mainframe in the basement of the building. And all I basically had was a keyboard and a monitor upstairs, and then we got into servers and then personal desktops. But I feel like we're back there again, where all this stuff lives in the cloud. And, these just become dumb terminals with a browser on them all over again.
I see that coming so fast. I mean, the reality is there's nothing I can do that I can't do in the browser. Now, there's specialized fields. Don't get me wrong. AutoCAD for your architects, or like heavy duty, like photography or videography or medical equipment. There's definitely always going to be point solutions and point devices for those.
Yes.
But for the everyday white collar employee and blue collar employee that are accessing their apps just to get their simple job done, it's all done in SaaS. It's all done in the browser. So I agree with you. I can see a world in which we come back full circle. I have a pretty nice MacBook here, and I don't think I'd trade it in, but I could probably get rid of it with all the memory and gigs and specs I used to have on here for development.
I finally broke down and bought myself a MacBook, and it's literally been sitting here doing nothing for months. I should probably dive into it a little bit better. But yeah, so as how does this relate, right? So we're moving into the browser, we're moving into that like cloud-based dumb terminal, whatever kind of, forward thinking with the desktop goes away, maybe. I don't know. Software become, again, specialized fields, right? But being able to understand what's there, right? I know RMM vendors, like, we can look at the device, we can tell you what software is. But RMM can't actually see all the browser, much like, Auvik. I almost said your previous company name. I'm learning, right? We're making sure the brand. But, how does this all start to come together when we think about from a compliance perspective? Do you have any thoughts on that? Because I know I do, but
Yeah. I mean, fundamentally, earlier I rattled off, CIS Control 1, and I can start to expand into all the other different CIS controls around 3 and safeguards 3.1.4 and 5 around identity, and CIS safeguards 5.1 and 5.5 around shared and service accounts. And I can get even into dormant accounts and all these different areas. Like, there's just so many little checkboxes, but that then becomes checkbox soup. And you're like, what number was it? Was it 5.4, 4.5, 3.3? Like, let's just take it back to like the real basics. Like compliance, is fundamentally about ensuring you're delivering what security you're talking about. And then from a security, you're really fundamentally talking about protecting the data. So let's just start at data, which is really all that all of this is around, because who cares about anything else? They're not hacking you just to get access to your coffee pots. They're hacking you to get access to your business data. Yes. And so if we just like keep it simple, and we look at data, well, how does this all correlate when it comes into compliance? Well, I don't care if you're NIST, ISO, CIS, if you're, Cyber Trust Mark, or if you're the next 37 certifications that are going to come down the pipeline, or 38 different variants of 40 different types of certifications and compliance. Like, I don't care what you are. You're fundamentally going to be going down a compliance framework, which is regarding your data. And when you look at where your data is, you're going to be looking at a few key things, like what assets are accessing those data. So assets can be both like devices, they can be identities. In the case of a browser, it's probably more likely an identity in a browser that's accessing that data.
Yep.
What network are they crawling to get there? Is it public internet? Is it behind a secured network? And then you're going to be getting into like what applications are hosting those data. So what SaaS apps in a lot of cases are hosting those data, what desktop apps, what server-based apps are accessing those data. And so how does this all correlate? It really correlates because fundamentally you're worried about data. And the reality is all of the world's data moving forward and almost all of the world's data as we look into where businesses are today is in SaaS. Like everything's in SharePoint, that's the SaaS tool. You know, I always like to tell a quick quip here, like, Tim, how many SaaS tools did it take for us to get connected? Like, and how many data trails are there? We used a calendar link to get connected originally. We had a conversation over Microsoft Teams. I probably sent you a Zoom. We sent 15 different emails. I contacted your product people who sent me Figma mockups. I looked at the Figma mockups. I logged in. Like by the time we get to an interaction, we've used 10 SaaS tools with 10 different layers of data, with 10 different, hopefully not identities, but 10 different accesses of an identity. And that's how it all ties together, because the whole world and the way that we work is based in these SaaS tools. And fundamentally, that's where all the data is.
Yeah, I feel like we did it to ourselves. 10, 20, 15, 30 years ago, whatever, it was like, let's go paperless, right? And, we started talking about like, let's move this into into something where I can now search it easier. I can have a screen reader easier. Like let's just digitize everything.
Yeah.
Right. We kind of did it to ourselves. And I know we're kind of getting off a little bit of the compliance and journey here, but we did it to ourselves, right? We brought all this, data into some places, into some silos, and then we started to expand those silos because we knew people wanted to talk to each other. People wanted to share data. People wanted to get across. But from a compliance perspective, you're right. Doesn't matter the mouthful of framework acronyms. It's all about understanding where that stuff is, protecting that stuff, ensuring that you're putting in the right safeguards. It doesn't have to be hard or scary, but you do have to do a little bit of work around it. And it all starts with, where the hell is it? Who's touching it? Why they're touching it? And this is the big point that we talk about when we're doing CMMC engagements on data flow diagrams, right? Figure out who's touching it, where it is, how it comes in, how it goes out, what SaaS platforms, what network devices, where does it reside, all that asset discovery component. But the most important of that is, and this is the hardest one for MSPs and the change in the small businesses they work with, is, do they really need to touch that data? Right? Well, Sally's always had access, right?
Yeah.
So those are just, as we're looking at from a compliance standpoint, right? Whatever framework it is, being able to understand where it is, who has access, and is it the right access? And is it actually authorized? Are we actually allowed to do this work? Do we have a policy and a procedure to back it up, saying this is where it comes in, this is the only person that can touch it, and this is where it resides?
Well, let's pick on Sally a little bit here. Poor Sally. But like the reality is, should she have access to Salesforce? She's always had access to Salesforce. She runs our books. Like she needs access to Salesforce. But it's not really there is the concern of should she have access to Salesforce, but it's all these other things too. It's like, there's a lot of questions you're not even able to ask if you don't know what's being used. You don't even know to ask, should she have access to Salesforce, unless you know that there's Salesforce. And unless you've logged in to audit and understand that Sally has Salesforce. You're probably going to know that. It's a pretty expensive app. People use it to run their businesses. Mm-hmm. What about
Canva?
ChatGPT. Yeah, I like Canva a lot because I hear good examples in that where, I built my pitch deck in Canva. I put my financials to report to my board in Canva. I created all this data. It's all in Canva. That one's always a good one because a lot of critical data sits in Canva, but you'd never think at $12.95 a month that it's that important. And heck, it's so small, most businesses probably don't even need a receipt in their accounting software for it. So it just falls under the radar. But take like another one, like ChatGPT. Do we even know that Sally's accessing ChatGPT? Like, probably not if you're an MSP, because what you're doing is you're interacting with your point of contact who's saying, yeah, we want to use AI. And you're asking, what are they doing with AI? And their answer is, well, some of our people use it. We're not sure. Like, we really want to use it, though. And I keep poking the bear towards our takeaway that we're going to get to at the very end here. But like, fundamentally, like, yes, should Sally have access to Salesforce? Probably, maybe not. It doesn't matter. But what about the other like 48 apps that she's using and accessing? Should she have access to the Bank of America login? Have we forgotten about that? Because we never even talked about that. And there's no way as an MSP, you got so deep into your interview process during your onboard, and there's no way in heck that Sally remembered to put it in a spreadsheet there when you onboarded her and said, oh yeah, I have Bank of America login. Don't forget about that. So it's just a matter of you need to automate it. For years, I've always advocated that you could probably get away with it being manual, but I think we just kind of hit this like wall of so much consumption of so much SaaS and so many critical SaaS tools that will eat your data up, especially with the AI. That like it's just no longer acceptable to.
As a startup, yourself, like scrappy little startup, and I had to do things to like automate components of stuff and blah blah blah. And then now that we have teams, now they have people in place, like I had to remember. I knew because we have tools to monitor that now. All the stupid little things that I signed up for to help me augment my work. Now that we have a human running those things, we're like, I'm nixing things left and right. Like no more no more platform.com or platform.y or like ripping these things out. Cause at $20 here, $20 there, you never really notice the gym membership that you pay for and never go to.
Well, what about Zapier.com? That's probably what you're referencing. Or like, what are these other automation tools where you're data access?
Yeah, absolutely. Zapier, whether it's, Google Sheets, right? We're a Microsoft shop, but, one of the organizations we work with is all Google. And I'm like, stop putting the stuff there.
Smart Sheets, all these other little things. Like when you're a startup, you put data in there. And honestly, quite frankly, like when we went through a due diligence process in my last business, it's like we had our software inventory. And I was like, thank goodness we had our software inventory. Like I forgot we used this sub feature for status pages. And I forgot we used, like, there's just so much nuance. And I think by the time we did an audit, we were only a handful of people. We had like 112 apps that we used and had access to. Right. It just gets overwhelming because you need something for this and something for that and something for this. And especially in the startup world, you can't afford to buy the big enterprise thing that has all the bells and whistles in one system. And so, the sprawl is real.
Do you know how many RMMs I've installed on my device as I've been building API connectors over the last year?
Everybody has control to your device. No, you don't install them. You did it right. You stayed compliant. I get it.
Yeah. It's just so the AI conversation is kind of fascinating to me, right? Because everybody wants to use it. I mean, heck, PAX 8, like literally every other word at the conference was AI.
Everything.
I can't say that word.
Agentic AI.
Why can't I not say that word? Agentic AI.
Yeah, this might be AI Tim. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure.
So we're just moving so rapidly down this. And when I say the word AI, I kind of bucket a lot of things together. All of that, right? Because, the general populace doesn't know the difference between MCP or OLAMA or any of the like actual technologies in use. We just lump it all together. So for the sake of this conversation, AI is the combination of all the individual components. Yep. But where we're heading as an industry, some of the hallway conversations I had were like literally 50-50. Half of them were like, oh my God, we're not touching that. And neither are our customers. And we're advising our customers to go near it. And we're disabling it. Huh?
Wrong. But go on. They were not, maybe they're not doing it, but their customers are doing it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I'm just saying, like, this is where I was actually heading. Like, oh, no, we disabled Copilot and blah, 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 and all our Microsoft tenants and all of our customers. And we've been telling them no. And I'm like, are you really sure that they're not doing it? Because I bet they are.
You just pushed them towards shadow IT is what you did.
You did. Oh, if only there was a platform. Find that.
Yeah.
So, and then you have the other side of the conversation where they are like fully embracing it. In fact, we have a couple little chats groups going where people are building these little AI apps like every day. Right? I was just chatting last night about one that was somebody built in like an hour. I'm like, oh, that's super cool. Like, people are going to use it, whether they say they're not or they are.
Yeah. I mean, if there's any just like one proof point, I don't care that you say you're not using AI in your business. I get it, right? You're a manufacturing firm that's been family owned and operated for 40 years. You all get together for holidays and every employee, everything they do. Yeah, we don't use AI. Well, sure. But then what about that 20-year-old who just came out of the workforce, or that 18-year-old that just passed half their high school quizzes with ChatGPT? Like
your little nephew that you hired because your brother said, hey, hire him.
Yep. And now he's doing social media. Oh, and guess what? You're using AI. And that's the thing. Like, okay, sure. Somehow you have this like tight lot box around everybody and everybody and you're kumbaya, you all talk and you're just anti-AI. Even if you're not using AI today, that next generation lives in it. Like I love, actually, it's super refreshing working with like young 20-year-olds because you don't even have to have a conversation around like, do you know how to use ChatGPT? Like what kind of, they're like, oh, here's my prompt for this. Here's my prompt for that. They're like living digitally native in AI.
Yeah. Let me teach you a thing or two about how I use it.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. I actually really love this. So yeah.
Great perplexity, solve 10 problems. Yeah. So it can be really helpful, right?
Yeah, of course.
I think from a governing perspective, having some guardrails. I worked with a teacher a year or so, not even a year or so ago, who, basically told me like I needed to get some stats to report back up. And I just dumped the student data in there to tell me the median average and to tell me this and to tell me that. And I was like, oh my God. But this is the reality. Like they would have to do spreadsheets and manuals and maybe use SPSS or some other kind of program. And now they're just dumping the shit into ChatGPT and be like, hey, give me a report.
We pulled the data from our repository, and this was back in April, and I'm trying to get a refresh for my ChannelCon talk. But when we pulled it back in April, this is, mind you, the most used SaaS apps across hundreds of thousands of users. ChatGPT surged from like early 2020. What are we in 2025? Early 2024. It was like not even reported on because it was below the 10,000 mark. Now it's 15 in 2 years. Like ChatGPT has grown to be the 15th in April. I guarantee we run that survey now and we're 12, 13. Like it's starting to topple down usage in Salesforce. It's starting to topple down usage in Adobe. It's crazy how much people are using it.
Absolutely. So from our perspective, and this is kind of why we did a little bit of this integration work and trying to bring in. So we spent the last, half hour or so trying to discuss and understand the usage, where these things are. It is happening, whether you believe it or not. Tools like Auvik can help you find that and then explain the risk to your customer. This is where I'm going to pivot a little bit because from Compliance Scorecard's perspective, while you as the MSP are helping them manage that risk, it's still your customer's risk.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to make decisions around these risks. Block all GPT or not, or have a policy, have an acceptable use policy for AI, or have something in place and help your customer by facilitating that work of, hey, we used Auvik, we used this, we found a bunch of stuff. What do you want to do about it?
So, fundamentally, let's talk through it though. Okay, let's AI is the shiny object, and it's of course like you can't get through a webinar without it. But let's talk about it. Walk me through the process in Compliance Scorecard. Like, how, if you're an MSP, do you talk to your customers about a new asset? Let's ignore SaaS. Let's ignore AI. How in Compliance Scorecard do you do that?
Well, obviously, first you need to be able to have the discovery tools, right?
Yep.
Whether it's Auvik or your RMM or whatever. And maybe I can just share a little bit of my screen here. Let's see, share screen. And then, no, I don't want to share my checkmark as a service app. Let me know if you can see that. Perfect, right? So, multiple different connectors. I'm not going to get into all those connectors and whatnot, but the idea is to be able to take those devices, run them through a connector, and yeah, they just kicked me out of staging. Of course they would kick me out of the staging site during a webinar because, hey, it's a live stream and that's what happens. Yeah. Anyways, tie in your source of truth. In this case, Auvik. Pull that asset list in, quickly review it. We red, yellow, green. Is this a new asset? Is this a duplicate asset? Is it a suspect duplicate, or did we already know about it? Yep. Quickly allow the MSP to be able to show like, hey, yep, I know about that device. It belongs to John. That device belongs to Tim. Ooh, what's this new SaaS app? Somebody just went and is dealing with a lot of Perplexity AI, right? Or Copilot in this idea, right? Pull that asset list down. You can quickly review it. But the key factor here is sending it to your customer, having them review it, and sign off. That's the secret sauce that we have here. You're governing it. You discovered it. You allowed your customer to make decisions on it and reject or approve. You actually governed and allowed them to say yes or no. Like, is it right or is it not? Now, I can give you a really good example.
Let's hear it.
When I first launched asset management here with Compliance Scorecard, I used one of my MSP customers because I was still here and we were still doing work. And I had a conversation with them. I was like, hey, I'm going to use you as my test bed. Hey, no problem. Now, we were billing them for 150 units a month. Okay, at $350 per unit per month. So do a little math there. I ran it. I got back the devices. I ran it through the RMM. I used that and I was like, there's only 20 devices. Wait, hold on. Code debugging. We're talking about this, right? In the beginning. Debugging, like, what the hell is going on? It's broken. I'm only getting 20 things. So I did it multiple times. I actually went to the RMM and I'm like, wait, there is only 20 devices. And that triggered me like, uh-oh, hold on a minute. I called the CEO and it's like, because we were co-managed. Yeah. And I said to the co-managed, I was like, dude, like, where'd everything go? It's like, oh, yeah, we had a riff a couple of months ago. We laid off 80 to 90% of the staff. What? I'm billing you $1 billion a day, whatever, do the math.
Yeah.
For people in units that no longer exist, and you never told me. And by the way, you skipped the QBR because you just whatever. Wow. Fortunately, we worked our way through it. But from an MSP perspective, again, you can't protect what you don't know. And in this instance, for us, like, we were overbilling them. So it was a good way for us to level up either direction. Oh, yep. We're billing you for 10, but you have 150. That's a problem too. So.
Yeah, and I think that the key thing here I love about this platform is that it starts those conversations. I think one of the biggest challenges that I always struggled with in my past life at an MSP is every time somebody called, they were frustrated. Every time I'd interact with the customer, they were frustrated. Nobody calls to say, hey, it was a great day. And I think that this platform gives you the ability to have those key reach out moments. Hey, you added 15 new SaaS tools in your stack. Like, since we last talked, 3 or 4 of them are AI tools. Like, looks like your team's using AI. But the CEO on the other end goes, no, we're not. Well, no, yeah, you are. And it's okay. Like, we can work together and collaborate on this, but you got AI tools and usage. I know I'm a broken engine over here on AI, but it's topical, it's logical. But fundamentally, like, now you get to have that conversation with the CEO who believed that they weren't using AI. You get to unlock those discussions.
Yes.
And so I think I would, help me like walk through what it would look like in that platform, because that's the key thing I always wanted to see. Like, I want to walk through it with my customer and show them. So like, how do I unlock those conversations in the platform that you have today?
Yeah. And I love that because that's all of our mantra. We help you have the risk conversation with your customer. So let's try this again, right? So share my screen. Now that I got my 2-factor.
I hope you're ready.
So yeah, I mean, all the different frameworks, all the different things, but we're going to focus specifically on, the API connectors that we have with Auvik. Set your little config, you get the idea, pretty straightforward. But asset management, right? And this is the fun part, right? So these are already scheduled ones that happen, but I'm just going to walk you through the first time setup, right? So we come in, we pick our connector, in this case, Auvik. We map it to a customer. Obviously I already have one mapped, blah, blah, blah. Yep. And this is the fun part. So CIS gets a little weird, either weekly or monthly, depending on the control and where you're at. But that's fine because we give you options, weekly, monthly, whatever. We give you that synchronization option. Pick when you want. Now I'm going to do it manually, but whatever frequency you set, the platform will go out to Auvik. It'll pull that list in. It'll give you the list of the assets, and then it'll give you the opportunity to quickly review that list and dive right into Auvik and see, again, multiple versions over time. As you can see, we continue to version and version and version. And you can go right in and you can see that the asset list has been approved. You can download and review it, or you can just view it right in the browser of all the new devices, so on and so on and so forth. I'm not going to share too much because there's a little bit of proprietary info in there, but the idea, and then when you push it to your customer, they have the lists to approve. As you can see here, review the asset list. This is where the customer can come in and be able to look at, oh yes, these are all new devices, because I ran it. These are all new devices. I can either reject with feedback, commenting on it, whatever. Tell me about that device. Tell me about either reject with feedback or approve. And then you do that on the cadence in which your policy and procedure is set.
And see, I liked what one column I saw there on the left was that new column. Because that's what that's what I want to talk about. Do you bring up decommission things that have fallen off as well of the actual roadmap? So when they were there last time,
let me get you the document. So I'm trying to find one here that has data that will show. Let me share this real quick. So previous import, we knew about it before, so we don't have to re-govern that. And again, since I ran it this morning and then I just ran it again, now it's obviously going to show previous import for everything. But you're right in the sense that on the schedule, we go out to those things, and let's see, do I have Auvik here? Yeah, we go out to those things and we give you red, yellow, green. We give you the ability to show you. Hold on one second. I'm trying to drive both the platform and
I know I've been in your shoes before, Tim. Don't worry. I know how it goes.
So yes, TLDR, we're going to tell you what's new, big green column. We're going to tell you suspect duplicate. We're going to tell you, hey, we already knew about that, so you can whatever. And we're going to keep that list ongoing, throughout the life cycle of when you're managing these things, right?
I like that a lot in the sense that one safeguard I pull against here is CIS 5.3. So that's your dormant accounts. That's 90 days after no activity. Now, there isn't a strict requirement around most other asset classes, specifically on software. There is a requirement when you decommission it that you log some of these things. But I love that you're flagging dormancy across all asset classes too. So if it goes and disappears, you can say, oh, whoa, that was never supposed to disappear, or that, that type of device just went away, or wait, why is nobody, no longer using the SaaS application? Can we go save money there? So I love that you're doing that. Maybe I'd call it drift, asset drift. Is that the term would you use?
Yeah,
that?
Exactly. Yeah. One of the things that we get a lot from is, and this is a much bigger lift for our dev team, but we're working on it. Look across all the sources of truth, not just one, not just Auvik or your RMM, but look across all the sources of truth that you could tie in through APIs. And I think right now we have close to 30. Don't quote me on the number. But look across all your sources of truth and tell me about the things that we found and where they are, and more importantly, where they're not.
Yep.
And then keep track of age, high value asset, drift, all of that stuff of, you know what? I have three phones here. Actually, I have 4.
I'm not going to ask.
Huh?
I said, I'm not going to ask what you got 4 phones for, Tim.
One was my old MSP, which they didn't want back. They didn't want back, so fine. But
did they track that the asset went, did they decommission it? Did they delete it from their GRC? Did they delete it from their inventory? Yeah, I know you did.
When I left, I made sure. But yes, I mean, that's just the thing, right? Like, not just from a security and compliance component, but from a financial component, right? Mm-hmm. Depreciating assets, right? I'm just talking on that side for a second. Like, there's a financial component of, compounding interest and depreciation, all that things, right? So, I mean, yes, this iPhone 4 or whatever the hell it is worthless, but, that goes against the books. So anyways.
It goes against the books and it still has data on it. And so.
Not that one. It's been nuked to factory.
All right. Well, if somebody had forgotten about it, they had data.
True. Sure. I like to think I try to drink my own champagne, eat my own.
I'm trying to exemplify the bad MSP or the MSP that the bad's not even fair. The less mature MSP, the MSP who has yet to put these kind of practices in their business.
Yeah. So the TLDR version is with your sources of truth.
Yeah,
we can get those asset lists. Now we can get SaaS.
Yeah.
That because we were always only be able to get hardware, but now with Auvik SaaS management, we can get SaaS.
Yep.
And then your customer can say yes or no. And it opens up that conversation for you and your customer where we don't ever use AI. Yeah, but Johnny that graduated high school because your brother told you to hire him is using it all day, every day.
And now we made it back full circle to our earlier statement that we said was going to be your key takeaway. You can't talk to your customers about SaaS until you know what AI goodness, I can't get it out. You can't talk to your customers about AI until you know what AI they're using. And I think what I hear today is by leveraging Compliance Scorecard, you're going to be able to see those deltas. You're going to see that new stuff that's coming up. And I heard Clips for You in here had a great comment around using Perplexity and Copilot. If Clips was at, I don't know your name, I'm going to call you Clips for now. But like if Clips was at a client environment leveraging Perplexity and Copilot in their business, and the MSP business owner was able to pull that data forward, they could talk to their customer and say, hey, like you're using AI in your environment, not by the way, which is a lot different than what most people have to say today, which is, are you guys using AI? You are using AI in your business. How are you managing it? How are you governing it? How are you doing data governance on it? Oh, and by the way, would you like us to help you? Because we have a whole practice around it. And so you can't have those conversations unless you're able to know it's there. And it makes it a heck of a lot easier to have those conversations when you're working with something like Compliance Scorecard that can say, this is the new time since we went through this process, because here's the 5 AI emerging tools that are in your business. And that's just AI. That doesn't talk about the productivity tools, the communication tools, the file sharing tools, the QuickBooks you forgot, all the different things that go on and on and on. But I love the power of both platforms combined because it allows you to have that conversation with a customer. And quite frankly, it allows you to have a conversation with a customer that they care about. The CEO cares about AI. He may not care that a workstation went and got deprovisioned, but he should. But the point being is he is excited about AI because all of his peers are talking about it, or she's talking about it. And so that's where the opportunity comes in.
Well, and I think you make a really good point, right? So, excuse me, the conversation is happening. The conversation is actually happening in your MSP.
Yeah.
Your staff are using it, whether you think so or not, right? And having a tool to help you discover it, like I guarantee one of your technicians is going to Claude or ChatGPT and dumping in a help me solve this problem that I've been bashing my head against for hours on end.
With your customer IDs, assets, and everything in that message.
And even if they're not doing that, your tools are starting to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So, I've been a big, I've been pushing back from our leadership, from our board, from our staff, even from our MSPs with, hey, when you adding AI? When you adding it? No. Big bad Mr. No came out. But, and John, I'll say this here first. So you'll be the first to hear this. We actually have added some AI functionality into Compliance Scorecard. Now that I feel a little bit better, I can protect the data, I can comply it. We are now adding a couple of AI components, but it's not just us. Whether your staff in your MSP is directly going to ChatGPT or any of the other things, your tools are now starting to add it in there too. And that's a whole nother layer of complexity that, hey, it's in your RMM, it's in your PSA, it's in your marketing, it's in your Canva, it's in all the things.
And now you're talking about ambient IT. All the new tools that are changing what they're doing with your data, and how are you managing the drift of what application vendors are doing with your data. That I keep hearing that term ambient IT pop up.
It's a new word for, or at least in this context, it's not a new word, but it's in the ambient
IT
AI. Oh my God. Can we just stop making shit up, please?
Yeah, no. In ambient IT, it's really about like all of the stuff that's coming out and emerging and the changes in your assets classes. You may know the assets there, but you may not know now that it has more functionality or more versionality or more featureality, all these different things. So another topic for another time and another problem to be solved.
Right. I think there's another SaaS company for us there.
No,
I'm done.
I got too many. Got too much on my mind these days.
So, coming up here in the last few minutes, I generally always end with the key takeaway, but John threw a wrench at me and wanted to start with the key takeaway. So how did we actually get from our key takeaway to where we are right now? John, let me pull you up and we can give you some time to recap.
Well, I mean, our key takeaway was, your customers want to hear about AI and you want to talk to your customers about AI. But fundamentally, when you go to those clients today and you say, hey, are you using AI? Half those times that they're saying no, what they really mean is yes, they just don't know. And so the paradigm is shifting the conversation and bringing to them the list of AI that they're using with the power of Auvik SaaS management combined with the Compliance Scorecard platform, and showing them that they're using AI and saying, how do we want to manage AI together? And bringing that powerful combination of messaging together. And so most MSPs out there are trying to rattle their heads around where AI fits in their business and how they're going to manage their AI with their customer. But really just starting with knowing what AI your customers are using is the real basic fundamentals of what you need to do to build an AI practice, an AI strategy within your MSP. And so to come full circle, deploying Auvik SaaS management's free. It's simple just to get started and find Shadow IT environment. I'm sure Tim will do his shout out here on how to get started on Compliance Scorecard before we let you go. But just try it. See if the conversation works. And you have one great conversation, all of a sudden it makes sense to start having that conversation across your customer environment.
I love that because it really ties into our mantra as well, which is, you should be having these risk conversations with your customer, because if you're not, A, they assume that you're doing it. B, you own that risk. And if you're not working with your customer to transfer that risk to them, helping them and guiding them down the risk conversation to make their own risk-based decisions, whether it's through Risk Register and Compliance Scorecard, you need to start with, what do I have? They make assumptions that you're doing the work. They make assumptions that, we don't use GPT. Well, actually you do, because you were just forced to hire your nephew's, 20-year-old high school graduate who is using it. And if they aren't, they will be using it because it is shifting rapidly. So with pulling in data from Auvik, being able to find that shadow IT, find those AI things, you can actually go to your customer by using the report or walking the Compliance Scorecard platform is client facing. So walking your customer through what was actually discovered and having that conversation with, these are all the people and this is all the things that they're using, and allow them to make those risk-based decisions while they're doing this work. So TLDR, with our connection with Auvik, and Compliance Scorecard. You can start to open up that risk conversation with your customer and not make assumptions, because you know what that does. And if you're looking for a way to get started, you can head on over to compliancescorecard.com, click the little live demo. We host weekly live demos where we can show you all the fun things that we can do over here. John, any parting words? Where are we going to see you next?
You're going to see me over at ChannelCon, probably is the next conference for sure. I'll be out there. I actually have a whole conversation around Shadow AI and Shadow IT. But you can always stay tuned with me. Like I do a fun little recap every single week. I'll definitely be recapping this conversation here for those who want to have a debrief. I write a newsletter. If you want to follow along, you're able to hop in there, and I will debrief our whole conversation here, Tim, into some quick salient notes for those with takeaways. So if you want to find out how to reach out to me, just give me a holler on LinkedIn. I'm always happy for a new connection, a new conversation, and follow along.
So you mentioned something about a weekly newsletter, this weekly grind at Beehive. That's interesting. I've not heard of that. I'm going to have to go follow it and sign up, and yay, more newsletters. But you know what, John? Your newsletter is something I would actually want to read and follow. So.
Thank you, Tim. I talk most of the weekly talks around AI, MSP, cybersecurity, and all the management and monitoring. And you'll be a highlight on it this week as I talk about the shift in the industry and why is GRC starting to be important. So that's going to be a topic this week with a shout out to what we just did here.
So do the thing across the bottom with the follows and the likes. And I guess I'm supposed to say that stuff. I should probably put mine up there too, because I forgot to do that in the beginning. But hey, everybody, have a great rest of your week. John, I will see you in Nashville here soon. Maybe we can go to the Grand Ole Opry and, play a little honky tonk music.
Awesome. Thank you. Right. Thanks for having me on. Been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Subscribe now.